welcome to Barbatus Catholic Podcast, the show where three Mexican dads talk about faith, life, and culture. We are your hosts,
Gustavo,
Ivan,
and Walter, and today we are going to talk about finding meaning in our lives.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Guys, are you looking for a nice gift for your wife or for your mom? Is your daughter celebrating her birthday or First Holy Communion soon? Be sure to check out Telos Art for a beautiful selection of saint medals and heirloom jewelry. Celebrate the people you love with a timeless gift, one that is both functional and sentimental. Jewelry can mark a special moment or occasion and can be a reminder of that event each time that it's worn. A medal mom wears now can be passed down to future generations. And you can feel good about shopping at this family-owned business because Catholic jewelry from Telos Art is inspired by truth, goodness, and beauty. Telos Art is the place to find unique miraculous medals, vintage jewelry, and one-of-a-kind designs that are sure to inspire and delight your loved ones. Find out more information at telosartshop.com. That's TELOS artshop.com. Use discount code Barbatus at checkout to get 20% off any purchase. And now to the show.
So a few days ago, this is a funny story that illustrates another example of how Gustavo and I are the same person. We were celebrating my goddaughter's first birthday, Pia, Ivan's beautiful, beautiful daughter.
She is very
She
beautiful.
looks so cute, man.
She's so cute.
She's like the cutest, chubbiest baby ever.
She's got
I
cheeks
see her
for
at
days.
mass and I'm like, I just have to go and get my dose of cheek.
I know. Literally every Sunday when you see her,
Yeah, I
it's
told
like
you that.
cachete, and you just go in for it
cachete,
and
un
grab
taco de
it.
cachete.
Taco de cachete. And
Did you ever hear
Está
that?
bien hecha.
Did you ever hear that like urban legend of like Mexican moms that le daban mal de ojo al niño o algo así?
Oh
Because
yeah, dude, my mom
didn't-
like totally like me barrió con hoja de con rama de pirul y con un huevo. For those of you who don't know that, like I guess the bad eye, right?
mm,
Ojo.
Yeah.
There's like this curandero tradition, I guess, is like a shaman or whatever you want to call it. It's like alternative medicine that they like hit you with the branches of like a eucalyptus tree, something like
Something
that.
like
yeah,
that.
something
Or they like
something fragrant,
they rub
fragrantful.
yeah.
they rub an egg all over your body
Like a
to
black egg.
absorb the black vibes.
Yeah.
And when you crack
Very-
the egg, it's like black.
yeah,
Yeah.
Very early in my parents' marriage, I think when Monica was born, she's the
Uh-huh.
oldest. She got sick or something, and my dad walked into the room, and my mom was doing something con un huevo,
Uh-huh.
and my dad was like, "Oh, weirded out." He's like, "Crap, what am I getting myself into?"
Right. But you know, that's like very superstitious kind of,
Yeah.
you know, welcome to Mexico in the 80s. One thing that does work is like the fried garlic clove wrapped in cotton and put in the
And
ear.
the ear, yeah,
That
because
that
cures-
it's un-
works
That cures
100%
ear
of the
infection.
time. That
because
works.
garlic has anti-inflammatory properties.
Mhm.
That's why.
And then when you're done with it, you fry a little bit more, and then you have like a good snack
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
your peanuts.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a little gross at the end, but
Wait,
well,
but
not
I
the
wa-
same one.
But I want to know. Okay, so at Pia's birthday party, how did you
Oh,
guys?
Sorry, yes.
Before we deviate even more,
we actually, if you want, must know, we deviated twice because we didn't say what the malojo is.
that's true.
And then we
Yeah,
deviated
bad
from
eye.
your story. Bad eye is essentially, it happens when a mom or like a person, not a mom, a person wants to like
like a
squeeze.
stranger.
A stranger wants to squeeze like a baby's cheeks, but obviously she doesn't do it because she's not like creepy like that. But then something happens to the baby.
It's like
where
the
it's
intention of
yeah, it's like the intention and the intention is not like fulfilled. And then like something weird happens to the baby.
that they get a malady.
Exactly.
Mexicans are weird.
It's like
Es el mal
we
de
are
ojo.
weird.
Okay, so now deviating from the second story to the first story. Walter, take
Correcting.
it away.
So, so we were at the party and we're hanging out at John and Miranda Buell's, which shout out to the Buell's because they have the best party house in.
Because they're the only ones that have a pool.
Yeah, basically. But you saw the picture of my half birthday. It was the Buell's, so you know they have like the perfect backyard. So shout out John and Miranda. And Gustavo and I got to talking about the podcast for whatever reason, and Gustavo pitches to me this idea for this episode. He's like, "Hey, have you read Viktor Frankl's Men in Search of Meaning?" And I was like, "Oh, you read my notes because we have an ongoing document,
like a
where we
brainstorming
put
document.
for our ideas for these episodes." And Gustavo was like, "What document?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, we both
I had legit not read the document. I read it later that evening, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's the
It was
document."
almost verbatim what he told me.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
I was like, "Oh my goodness."
yeah. So this episode essentially, it's a book that I read a long time ago, but it's was introduced to me by Carolina, and because she studied logotherapy and she studied Viktor Frankl, and it's something that it really touched on me in terms of the significance of it and what he went through. Yeah, go ahead.
It's funny because you got introduced to that because of Carolina, but
Yeah.
Otto was the one that gave me a copy of.
Oh, yeah?
I actually borrowed Otto's copy to read that book. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
my first love. I mean, shout out to Otto. I love you.
Yeah. So, and it kind of like came back into light recently now that the Olympics have ended at this point by the day we recorded this podcast. And with Simone Biles, being like in all the websites and headline news because her struggles with like mental health issues and stuff like that. And wherever you stand on that, whether you sympathize with her or like literally outright called her out because people labeled her a quitter or whatever, we're not going to get into that. That stance is not necessarily important, but the importance is that mental health is a real issue in the U.S. and I dare to say worldwide, right? But it's here in the U.S. is it's rampant. In a study performed by the CDC, suicide was the 10th leading cause of death overall in the U.S.
Wow.
Claiming the lives of over 47,000 people, which leans really heavily male versus female. It was the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34. 10 and 34, dude.
Do you know the split on male versus female out of those almost 50,000 people?
I don't,
Okay.
but it does lean heavily towards male.
Okay.
And we'll put like the links to the CDC study that I
Stats.
found, and again, this was I think a study performed either in 2018 or 2019. I don't think it's that outdated, at least for our talking purposes, because if anything, it just got worse with the pandemic.
I was
right?
going to say, yeah.
So, and again, it was the fourth leading cause of death among individuals ages 35 to 44. So again, pretty young. It's pretty sad, and I think it's something that it's important to talk about, not to like put a downer of an episode out there, but to really find out why. And I think as Catholics, we're like, we carry joy. We know how the story ends, and we have that in our hearts, and that's what we try to instill in our kids' hearts and in our kids' minds. How faith really affects our well-being, and how joy, it should be an everyday thing, despite of suffering and despite of like the circumstances, bad or good, that you're living. We should always find a way of giving that to God. And during Lent, we offer up sacrifices for God, and we give up things and many sufferings here and there. But there are people dealing with like real suffering. Giving up chocolate is not a suffering. It's just like something.
Yeah,
we
there's
should be
people
able to
that
do.
have, relatives with cancer or have lost
Correct.
a loved one. Yeah, that
Sure.
is suffering.
Yeah. So there are nearly 2.5 times as many suicides in the U.S. as there are homicides. So these stats are, again, not just to like scare or
Be a Debbie Downer.
Yeah, be a Debbie Downer. It's just good to know. Sometimes you don't pay attention because it's really not getting the headline news coverage that it should. And again, if it does, there's really no solution. There's just like, okay, this is what it is. It sucks. What do we do about it? So for today's episode, kind of like bringing it back to the Viktor Frankl kind of thing, it's that book, Man's Search for Meaning, is super popular. It Viktor Frankl. We'll just get a little bit into who he was. Viktor Frankl was a clinical psychologist back in the 30s, 40s, and Jewish. So him and his whole family were taken to concentration camps in Auschwitz. And in the concentration camps, Viktor Frankl lost his wife, his mother, his father, and his brother, I believe. And obviously he saw the worst of humankind and some of the worst suffering that the world has ever experienced, in terms of like what happened in World War II.
Was he in the concentration camps?
He was,
Okay.
yeah. He was there for, I want to say 3 years, maybe.
Okay.
That number might be wrong, but yeah, he was there. And again, as a clinical psychologist, he was studying, while going through all of this, the behavior of people in concentration camps, how hope was kind of like fading. He saw that because he said that he could always tell when somebody was about to give up on life because they started smoking the cigarettes instead of trading them for food.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's pretty profound.
Yeah, man.
What's the other thing that a lot of people died at right after Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah,
Because
so
they're like, or the war is going to be over by Christmas.
So people had hope, that they would be like liberated by Christmas, and then shortly after New Year's, people started like passing away. So the point of the book is that essentially, man's search for meaning is the ultimate tool that keeps someone alive, right? If you don't have meaning in your life, pretty much life is meaningless, right? Bringing it back to the opposite of that word. But within the book itself, you knew about him, right, Walter?
Yeah, like I read it when I was like in my early 20s, and it really struck me because I'm pretty obsessed with World War II stories.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that period of time, I mean, they call it the greatest generation for a reason, right? There has been the worst of mankind and the best of mankind. You see these stories about, like, Schindler, who was trying to save as many Jews as he could.
Amazing movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The boy in the striped pajamas, but it's probably that's not based on a. Is it based on a real?
I don't know.
I don't think it's in real events, but those Band of Brothers.
Life is Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that's actually, yeah, I know, but it relates a little bit to this topic.
Yes, yeah. They're really, really good movies around the topic, and I think what struck me the most is I went to a Holocaust museum when I was in Latvia. I studied abroad in Finland, and I was able to see like a recreation of the barracks where they would be, and man, it was like very sobering to see the conditions that they had in the concentration camps, and then seeing like these mountains of shoes and suitcases and things that the Nazis considered to be things of value,
more value than the people
versus the people. That is just like insane. So reading that, and also, like, I think that he memorized what he wanted to write in the book because he didn't have like pen or paper.
Yeah, it's not like he went back to his office after a hard day of labor.
Right.
Yeah.
So just the thought of like, I'm going to write this book was like sufficient to carry him through all of the things that he was going through in the concentration camp. That he didn't really know for sure if he was
No.
gonna make it.
And he didn't know if his family was alive either. That's the other thing. They were separated. And he said, maybe I'll see them again one day and maybe I won't. He never found out how they died and when they died and if they were together or nothing. And, and that's why people started smoking their cigarettes, because they were just like, screw this, But even so, that's a tidbit that I found out while doing research for this episode is that even in Auschwitz, with those living conditions and without end in sight, there was less suicide there than, and Frankl said this in an interview years after, than in Finland, I think, where they had like all of the comforts and everything like worked and they didn't have to like scour for food or go get water and it was like a modern city. There was more suicide there than in Auschwitz. Isn't that amazing?
What do you think that is?
They don't have the sunlight. They have like very short days. I lived there for like 6 months and I got very depressed during the summer, the winter, right? Rather, because the sun goes out at like 10 a.m. and then it goes down at 4 p.m. So I was in the university inside a class for that time. So it was dark when I went to school.
And it was dark when you got out.
When I got out. Wow. So they have, it's crazy. I'm going to try to find a picture to put in the show notes, but they have like luminotherapy, I think it's called. You basically walk around with like a lamp on top of your head to simulate sunlight. And in Finland, like the national problem that they have is alcoholism. People just drink. And they are not like a cheery, expressive culture like Mexicans, right? So they like very much like
keep it all
to
in.
themselves.
Keep it all in.
Yeah, it's an interesting culture. But yeah, that's one interesting thing that I don't know if we talked about it, Gustavo, but there was like not a lot of suicides in the camp.
Yeah, that's kind of like what it related to, that even,
Oh,
and
that
Frankl
makes
says
sense,
it. Yeah, Frankl said it in an interview, which you're like mind boggled at that point.
Yeah,
saying,
because you would think that everything that the prisoner at the camps went through,
correct,
just like breaking their wills,
it
just breaking
was
them
an
down.
experiment in breaking people down.
And just everything that they went through, and then the fact that you think that, or the fact that you know that there wasn't as many suicides, that's insane, man.
Yeah, so people were holding out hope.
Yeah,
a lot,
obviously. Yeah,
and so we won't get too much into the book, but I'll just like preface it by saying, the book itself focuses on finding meaning even through suffering, and that's what struck me the most. And if you have the time, I really recommend. If you haven't read this book, get this book and read it.
And it's super
super easy read, and it's really short.
I've never read it. Yeah, I've never read it. So when I was reading just hearing you guys talk about it and reading the notes, I'm like, man, I gotta read
and
this book.
I cannot fathom why there is not a movie made of this. It's an amazing story
of him writing the book. That would be fun.
Of his like life, and his experience and the people that helped and how he came out of this.
The before and after.
I was just gonna say, let's call Mel Gibson and set up a meeting with him. Be like, hey, man,
or Spielberg,
Guillermo del Toro.
I know, right?
Yeah,
tying it up too.
Yeah.
If you listen to the other episode, our first episode of season 2.
So let's do 3 lessons from the book real quick before we move on to like how we tie it to present time and how and why this is relevant. So the first lesson would be to find meaning in suffering and in your life. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how.
To live for.
Yes. So basically, you can go, you can be dealt with like the shittiest of cards and still, make something out of it. When life gives you lemons, you make
Yeah.
lemonade
For your family and your loved ones.
um for your family and your loved ones. You put up
Yeah, that's the
lemonade
why.
stand.
You got to find the why,
Right.
and that why justifies the how of your circumstances. It's essentially what the book hints at.
Where do you know where else you seen the why come into play?
Mm.
You've gone through this twice with me.
Oh, Exodus 90.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Exodus 90 is like
Mhm.
big on defining your why.
Yeah.
So that's it just clicked right now when we were talking about it.
Mhm.
It's like Exodus 90, define your why you are doing this. And now I
Yeah.
wonder if they took this. I mean, could be.
It could be. And that's from Nietzsche, by the way. That's just not necessarily like a Frankl quote.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, Exodus 90, I think that there has to be some intent in the why, because if you're just doing it nilly-willy, you'll leave it nilly-willy, right? It's easy enough to drop it if you really don't have a reason for doing
Right.
that strenuous exercise. Same as this. When people don't have that why, then any circumstance, good, bad, worse, horrible, is just gonna be the ticket out.
Absolutely.
Okay. Lesson 2. Love is the ultimate and highest goal to which a man can aspire. And I think we need to take some pause there to really define what love means. And that a lot of people think of romantic love, but there's actually like several different kinds.
What's love got to do? Got to do.
Boom, boom, boom.
I hope you appreciated that musical break. But
if you like more of that stuff, let us know.
We're gonna drop a single. No, but not romantic love. Like, which is important, but love is a something that you decide to wishing the best for the other. That is that love, that sacrifice for others.
Love is willing the good of another, Thomas Aquinas said.
Thank you. I knew that I had heard it from somebody
Perfectly put. Yeah.
smarter than myself. So that is what we talk about when we talk about love. And it is the highest, ultimate, and highest goal to which a man can aspire.
Yeah, so essentially what they attributed to on the book and in the concentration camps is that like a prisoner would carry all that bad stuff because he had a son waiting for him. The love of his son kept him going. Or somebody had like a study that they were doing and they were caught in the middle of it. So they were dedicated to their passion, to their love, that they would bring some good to mankind via that study. That's what kept them going. So essentially, the love is the ultimate goal. It means that is essential to human life, to the surviving and to the finding that door to go and bear every how, essentially.
In lesson 3, tree. My accent is showing. Excuse me, my Mexican is showing. Lesson 3. I'm
glad you didn't say turd. The third lesson.
The third lesson.
We're having way too much fun with this topic. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And for me, that is like, it's worth the ticket when it comes to like reading the book, because I think that so many times when we are in a situation that we cannot change, I guess, especially during parenthood, I have found myself more often than not in a place where I cannot change the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So when you cannot change the situation, you are like basically forced to like change yourself, or like, it's like a flight or fight mechanism, right? And most times I want to go with flight, but I feel like lately I have been doing like the fight, but not like fighting the thing that it is bothering me, but more like how do I die to myself that I change my reaction to the situation that I have little control over. So I don't know if you guys want to add to that one before we move on to the next point, but I think that's worth.
I have an example. It's a terrible example, but just at a time where I had to change myself is so it has nothing. There's like no deep, anything deep with this. It's kind of funny. So I grew up a gamer. Like I played video games. Like I had a Nintendo, Super Nintendo growing up. And I mean, when I lived with Walter, like he saw me play The Last of Us, the whole game.
PlayStation?
On PlayStation 3, I believe. So like I love playing video games. Then I got married. Then I had Lily, and I still kind of play video games, but then I didn't really have time. And then I like the more I fought it, like, you know, like I can, you know, the girls go to bed like around 7:30, hang out with my wife until like 9, 10 p.m. and then I'll play for like 30 minutes. You know, it'll be good. But then I just realized like I just can't play anymore. I don't have time. I'd rather sleep or I'd rather do something productive. So I sold it. So it's like,
yeah, dude,
I can't change the situation. So I just got to give it up. Yeah. So I haven't played video games honestly like over a year, which is crazy. I never thought that I would do that.
There you go. The things we do for sleep.
It is. And and those things that we are evolving as men, you know, I'm having the same thing with like,
movies.
Yeah, movies.
I just don't have time to watch movies.
Thing. I was talking to a buddy at work today. It was like, I'm like so sick of these superhero movies. I cannot stand them to the point where I'm like, God, another one? Like I got it, you know, because I'm just like, I've personally had enough. I don't have a problem with people liking whatever movies they like. I just feel like it's a little too sugary, you know. I like donuts, but I don't eat a donut with like all the toppings on it. You know, I need to be balanced.
In this case, donuts are being served every summer and every Thanksgiving, Gustavo.
No, but I guess that like goes back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's not that I mean, I don't want to say that I found meaning in video games. That's not it.
No.
You know, but I think it's just a good example of I just can't change the situation. So obviously I have to die to myself and
change yourself.
Yeah.
Change myself, be more productive and not play video games.
I think that's a good trade-off in my book. But I'm not a gamer either. So do you still have your consoles though?
No, I sold them.
Nice.
I don't have anything. So even if I wanted to,
that's true.
I just
that opens up a lot more opportunities. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So again, coming out of these 3 lessons, you know, that the book I think encompasses, what Frankl did with this coming out of the camp was that he developed, because he was like a clinical psychologist, and he started developing type of therapy, which he coined logotherapy because of logos.
Do you know what logos mean?
Well, it's like meaning, right? I mean, the logos. Why don't you look it up in that box of yours called the computer? While I finish this thought, which Carolina studied for a little bit, by the way.
Oh, the Word of God.
The Word of God, yeah.
Or principle of divine reason and creative order. Identifying the Gospel of John with the second person of the Trinity incarnate in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and Bishop Barron always says it really cool. The logos.
That's why it sounded familiar.
The logos.
The meaning?
Yeah. So he developed this therapy, logotherapy, and you know, kind of like contrary to traditional psychotherapy, Freud, which focuses on the will to pleasure or the will to power. Logotherapy focuses on the will to meaning. And Carolina studied it in Hermosillo when we were dating, and that's again how I got introduced into Frankl. She went to these courses, which super smart people, and she was the smartest one of all. Shout out there.
She doesn't listen to the podcast.
She will eventually.
Okay.
If I tell her that I'm talking about her, she'll listen to
That's
it.
a good point. Okay, so how do we tie it with today? How do we make it relevant to people that are listening right now? Like, okay, why are you talking about this book that was written after World War II?
Yeah. So in some way, Frankl said, in some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds a meaning, and such as a meaning as of sacrifice. So I think here's where it boils down to. If we look back at that age group, right, the 18 to 25, our kids today really sacrificing. I think we are given a lot, especially when you're a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe social media has become such an echo chamber where A, we make up lives to impress others, and B, live vicariously through others' lives, and that's just like a vicious cycle.
Oh yeah.
Where you find meaning in somebody else's life, but not yours, and you're just like thumb up and down endlessly, knowing, oh, why didn't I go on that trip? Or, oh, why are they eating that scrumptious dinner and not me? And I was victim of that. You start having kids and you don't go out as much, and you sacrifice those outings with your friends, or that like vacation that everybody took to go to a friend's wedding or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets you, right? It's just like, gosh, everybody's like living their lives, but I'm not.
I'm here changing diapers.
Exactly. So that's the reason of meaning, because when you come out of it, you figure that, yeah, there's like nothing I would trade now. Having those moments with my kids. You know what I mean? Trips, there's always going to be trips. Dinners, there's always going to be dinners. That moment, and specifically with my daughters, will never exist again. You know what I mean? And I did like go back a little bit too much, but it does help to see it in retrospect. No,
that's a really good point. And I think it also goes with what season in life are you at? Obviously, like if you're married and you have kids, like that's your season of life.
Exactly.
My cousin, who can be the same age as me, and he's living the single life, and like that's his season of life. Like I can't compare by looking at his Instagram stories and like, oh, he's at this place. Oh, he's in Vegas, and I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think it has a lot to do with this, with your season in life, and yeah.
I think that it overall, it's a natural reaction to. It's a human reaction to try to avoid suffering at all costs.
Correct.
Right? It doesn't feel great to suffer.
I mean, just hearing the word suffering, you're like, I don't want to suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't. I don't know when I heard this or who said it, but it's like we don't know how to suffer well.
Exactly.
That's kind of the key to me, to know how to suffer well. And who the great model of suffering well is Jesus Christ, who died on the cross, right? We have the roadmap already, because we have our first world problems where my gigablast internet and my router is not like giving me the 1,000 download speed that I need. That is not really
my Google
suffering.
Drive takes forever to open.
Exactly.
What
Right.
the heck?
Like, I don't have the latest technology, or we don't have the fanciest of microphones so you can hear us crisply.
The bass in our voice.
Right. So what would be like the remedy to that, other than accepting suffering when it comes? I think that I would equate it to, like, we've been talking about how, well, this show is about three Mexican dads that talk about faith, life, and culture. But I believe that the three of us have mentioned in previous episodes that we wanted to be fathers. Like, we had that in us, that desire to have a family, to raise kids. And I don't think that is something that a lot of men think these days. There's a prolonged adolescence in The Bachelor, and
Correct.
all these things not settling down, because why would you, right? you have all this liberty, all this freedom,
And very little suffering.
and very little suffering. And when I guess what clicked with me was when I heard about the concept of vocation, inviting God into conversation, sit down, shut up, and listen. Right? What do you want me to do, Lord? And then take it from there. Try to go through your prayer life to be open to say, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do with my life? And to me, it was really easy when I was dating Diana. The more that I thought about marrying her, the more peace that I felt in me that this is the right decision that I needed to do. And then we got married, and then we started to have children, and all of those challenges that have come with married life and my vocation as father and husband, it is a pruning, a purification, because guess what? This vocation of marriage is what is going to help me get to heaven. And I need to be purified in order to get to heaven. We need to get to the point where we are in the perfect state. You understand what I'm trying to say? I don't know if I'm making the most of this point, but once you have that, it's easier to accept those little sufferings, like the temper tantrums that happen right at the moment of the consecration at Mass, or sleepless nights with your sick children, or what have you, right? Or when your wife stubs her toe with the sprinkler and breaks her toenail, and you have to play nurse and try to help her, and you use jokes that are not adequate for the moment. I'm sorry, babe. But once you move past that, let's say that you already have your vocation clear, which, parentheses, if you're listening, if you're a man, and you don't know your vocation, you should probably spend some time
in prayer
with that.
Contemplation.
If you are thinking about asking out that girl, take it to the Lord and see if where that goes. If you want to be a husband, father, if you are thinking about becoming a priest, we will pray for you. We need more laborers in the vineyard. Talk to somebody about your vocation. Talk to us. Send us an email. Send us a direct
Walter's
message
got game.
Instagram.
He'll help you out.
Yeah.
The point that I was going to go with, like, after you find your vocation, you're living your vocation. Okay, like, how do you take it even further, right? For this meaning, and then this is, Gustavo, you're gonna probably recognize this, but this is a very Havard thing. When I read Virtuous Leadership, it talks about your life's mission. This discernment of what you should focus your energy to build the kingdom based on your talents, and then you go do it. He stopped doing law in order to do Virtuous Leadership Institute and teach about virtue and how virtue can help in leadership. And the last point that I have, because I've been on this rant for too long, Saint Jose Maria Escriva also talks about this mission in life as the apostolate. We need to be apostles, going and spreading the good news. So I'll leave it at that, and then you can bounce.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's very similar to what Walter, just said. Once I knew that what I wanted my vocation to be, which was marriage, and I knew that I discerned priesthood for a little bit, but then I did net, and then I met so many incredible families, and I'm like, man, this is so cool. I think I want to be married.
So from that moment, holy families too.
Yeah, that's very true. So when I knew that I want to be married, and then, I met the love of my life, and then we started having kids, I knew what my meaning was. Obviously, it's,
Mhm.
I want to get my wife to heaven, and I want to raise good human beings who are going to know their faith.
Mm-hmm.
But another one is also like, I just want to serve the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to, and I feel like I need to get back into that. I feel like this podcast is very good, because we get together every week and we talk about the Lord, and we talk about our faith and how to, just inspire other men. At least we try to inspire other men to live their faith. But I feel like I could also do more, like
Mhm.
I used to be in youth ministry. I used to sing in the choir. So I feel like I think I can do a little bit more with serving in the church,
Mhm.
but yeah, like, I mean, I definitely know, like, right now my vocation is to be married to my wife.
Yeah.
That's my specific vocation, and I just want to do better.
And God,
I want to do a good
keeps.
job.
I'm sorry to interrupt. And God keeps revealing that mission.
Absolutely.
think, but we also have to collaborate with God. So,
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
So just to tie it back to the Catholic perspective, we started talking about depression and suicide. It got a little heavy there for a little bit, and then we sung, so that livened it up a little bit. But we really want to bring it back home with like the Catholic perspective of meaning, right? So for a Catholic man, at least for me, it's God, and then there's everything else, right? It is important to have things in order, if they are to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Priorities help us find meaning, and I saw a video of this one guy saying, what, if you would read like The Hobbit, right, but you want to read in order, you read like page 5, and then you jump to page 87, and you jump to page like 205, and you jump back to page 2 or whatever. It would get really frustrating really quick, because it wouldn't make sense. That's what order and
you can't read about the Battle of the Five Armies and then go back to
totally
going into
it
the
would
frying
be very
pan.
frustrating.
What
You'll
the
be
heck
like,
is that?
what happened? Why? And it just wouldn't make any sense, right? So the sense is the meaning, right? And again, a prominent Catholic figure that we're actually celebrating her feast day today, Saint Edith Stein, she was actually a great tie-in for this episode because she both battled depression before becoming Catholic, and obviously she gave up her soul to the Lord in Auschwitz. So that's pretty good tie-in, in terms of like a Catholic saint that she faced extreme situation with serenity and peacefulness of the soul. Someone who learned to deal with the ups and downs of depression, but seeing beyond the immediate and embracing a life that never ends because it's eternal, and which is able to shine even in the deepest, darkest of death in a concentration camp.
Amen.
So that comes from a website that we would put a link up there. Those are not my words. I'm not that smart. But Jesus gives suffering meaning. Jesus didn't come to remove suffering. He came to transform it. And he invites us into it, into the redemptive part of suffering. So again, just to put a bow on it, right? Meaning is really, we got to work with the Lord to find that meaning, because there's always meaning. Married, fathers, single, everybody in your profession. And again, don't let the stats at the beginning scare you. Let it motivate you.
Talk to someone.
Yeah, talk to someone. Talk to us. And be there for somebody too.
Yeah. Find your why.
Mm-hmm.
Take it to the Lord. Find your apostolate. And while you do that, we want to thank you for listening to this episode of Barbatus Catholic Podcast, a show where three Mexican dads talk about faith, life, and culture. If you like the show, please consider subscribing to the podcast, sharing it on social media, leaving a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, and recommending it to your friends and family. And if you didn't like it, well, just keep it to yourself and let others make their own mistakes. We are on YouTube, audio only. So if you find our channel, Barbatus Catholic Podcast, like, subscribe, put the bell on so you get notifications for when we release new episodes every Tuesday.
Tell a friend.
Tell a friend. We would really use your help getting more people subscribed to the YouTube channel. That would really help us. We are on Instagram at Barbatus Catholic Podcast, and on the web we are at barbatuscatholicpodcast.com. If you want to send us an email and a prayer request, or telling us that we should stop talking about food, any feedback is welcome at hello@barbatuscatholicpodcast.com. And on the web you'll find the show notes for this episodes and more. Go find your why, find your meaning, take it to the Lord, and bless Helena's Casey.
Pray for us.
Until the next time.